Welcome to the Toronto Blue Jays extended rebuild. I'm BigIrrelevant, and I just want to thank you guys for coming and watching. If you have not yet watched the full Toronto Blue Jays rebuild, please click that link right up here, this one up there. Before you end up watching this, there will be spoilers otherwise, and you will see what we happen. If you have not yet watched one of these extended, this is where we advance beyond the lengths of our rebuild just to see how everybody who we drafted, as well as the important careers of the players that we had in that rebuild, end up developing into. We've done this several times already, and if you've watched any of my other rebuilds, please go ahead and take a look at these extendeds as well. I hope you enjoy them, and please leave your feedback below. The extended's a completely different thing than most rebuilds do, so I'm experimenting, trying some things in every single video, and I just want to experiment and see what's the most, I guess, beneficial way to do kind of one of these career sim sense of like videos where we're simming not just our career, but everybody's career on the Blue Jays. So first, let's take a look at what our roster was left off as post our World Series win and loss. This is the 2028 off season after we lost our World Series, post the other victory that we had, and this is where we are going to be relinquishing controls to the CPU to allow them to take full control over the rebuild. What team we left off with was a pretty interesting one. It was almost all international players, besides a few. We had multiple Cy Young winners on our team, and we had a bunch of other very competitive players and some guys that we have drafted as well. So you can see right here, we're leaving them with a very, very good bullpen. A good rotation, though. Cy Young winner Jose Barrios' contract is up right now, and Manoah's contract is yikes as he regresses. The other ones in our lineup, you can see this is what we left off with here, where this was our World Series winning team and the team that lost the second one, where we did successfully keep Bichette and Vladdy Guerrero Jr. around on the Blue Jays, and we have them signed pretty much for the rest of their careers, both until 2033 at minimum, 2034 for Bichette, as well as a bunch of other Canadian players with Julian and Naylor and the other Naylor who are here for some good time as well. So this is the team. We also have a bunch of players that we have drafted. So just to kind of give you a look at the history of this team, Vladdy Guerrero was signed in 2015, Kirk, Bichette, Pearson, Varsho. This is one of the ones where I think we've done the best job of keeping the core elements of this team here. As we've gone, this is where 2024, where we took over, and you can see we didn't really even have many guys until the Noelvi Marte trade, the Edward Julian trade, where you start to actually see the guys that we brought in and our core elements to our current team. Over this time, we drafted in 2024. We had you guys make it up to the majors, including Sedano, and I cannot pronounce his name, Baladeras. And then in 2025, we had our first round pick, Manuel Navarro, who should be up very soon. And then in 2026, we drafted two closers who were both very interesting and should be up very soon. And then in 2027, we spent our time drafting very, very well, getting a lot of good pitching for the future to kind of replenish the farm system that we traded away in order to be able to make a World Series level roster. So with that in mind, that is the team that we are going to be simming forward. We are going to see what the Blue Jays are able to do in the future, what award winners they win, and then we are also going to follow the players that we drafted and some key elements and key players that we had, such as Bichette, Vladdy, the Varsho, Julian, and the Naylors, and some of the pitchers as well. One thing I did in the Angels extended that I want to kind of do again is we're going to look at WAR and we're going to compare these guys all time to see where they actually end up. And I hope that this sim doesn't take till 2050 like the Angels one did, because that was rough. So I will see you as we continue to sim first through the Blue Jays history, and then you will start to see more of our career recaps as time goes on. Well, already Josh Naylor wins the MVP in 2029, so I guess that's great for him, and Guerrero gets batting title, so they're set up pretty well to win another World Series. In 2031, we get an MVP from Vladimir Guerrero Jr. They are once again a 100-win team, so they're looking pretty good. Also, they now have Noble Meyer and Andrew Painter who go first and second in Cy Young and win like Cy Young like that back to back. Yeah, this team is still stacked on the top end, so I'm hoping they can win another World Series. And they do, winning the 2031 World Series. That gives them Riley Green a World Series MVP and a playoff MVP for Mlb Marte. This team is just all around extremely stacked. We did a great job, and they get a clean sweep over the Arizona Diamondbacks, meaning the Blue Jays have now been to 4 World Series alongside Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero, and getting 2 thus far, at least. Jose Berrios retires at the age of 37. 13 seasons for Jose Berrios, and he got a Cy Young along the way, winning in 2028. He came over in 2021 and was fantastic, very consistent. And then for us, when we took over, super consistent in the playoffs, was almost like the best pitcher we had every playoffs, even if he wasn't the highest rated guy. He ends up with a career WAR of 34.9, which isn't anything kind of crazy, but is great as a 13 seasons. Good job, Jose Berrios, and happy retirement to the Cy Young winner. And that's back-to-back MVPs for Vladimir Guerrero, who wins another one in 2032, hitting 43 home runs. You can see BJ Walker, that generational prospect, is dominating on the other side. But yeah, still, Jordan Romano, almost reliever of the year on a different team right now. So, yeah, we just won a World Series. Hopefully, maybe they can go back to back this time. Jordan Romano retires at the age of 39. Honestly, great last season to end off with. 2.83 ERA, 48 saves. To think of a guy who really didn't come up and succeed until 2021, meaning it's 2032. It took him till his age 28 season to really end up being kind of like a closer. He was 448 career saves, is fantastic for a closer of Jordan Romano's caliber. He ends up with 1 World Series as well. Actually 2, because he won the 2031. So he's got 2 World Series under his belt too. He ends with a career WAR of 10. So, I mean, as a closer, but also he wasn't necessarily a great closer until we had him. Yeah, fantastic career. Gets 1 reliever of the year and 8 All-Star appearances. So Jordan Romano, that's it. Seiya Suzuki also retires. I know he's not necessarily a really big deal. We did make the trade for him, so I wanted to kind of show him off here a little bit. He ended up getting 157 home runs in his 8 career years here, and was only a 15 WAR type player, but decent career for him. He played here till 2029, so we got the 1 World Series, and then was not here for the second one. Had to show this one. Ricky Tiedemann gets the Cy Young over Noble Meyer and Andrew Painter, over the 2 guys that he would have had on his team. So just had to show that one. I thought that was kind of funny. And the Blue Jays win another World Series. Just absolutely dominant franchise right now. That is 3 World Series in 6 appearances now, technically, I think. Jackson Churio wins the World Series MVP, and playoff MVP goes to Riley Green, so yeah, they have won in 2031. They no, they didn't win in 20. Yeah, so they won in 2031, won in 2033, won in 2027. So that's 3, and then they lost in 2028. So technically only 4 appearances. I'm already losing track. Anyways, Jackson Churio wins it on that side, and Jet Williams on this side. So this team is still dominant, no matter if Vladdy and Bo Bichette get old. they're still out here winning World Series for the Blue Jays. I think I need to put this one on the chart. Mookie Betts, 122 WAR to end his career with his 5 MVPs and 12 All-Stars and 4 home run championships and 9 Silver Sluggers and I think 3 World Series. Yeah. Where would you put that in the GOAT conversation? So the Blue Jays are the greatest team of all time. 118 and 44, coming off a World Series. Yeah. Painter wins the Cy Young. Riley Green wins, and then he's also the runner-up for. What is this rotation? What the hell? Ramon Perez. We drafted him. It's just a clean sweep. He's one that he carried that many years in a row. This team is crazy. If they don't win a World Series right now, this is the greatest team I've ever seen. Okay. I feel like I cursed them. They can't win back-to-back. They're not allowed. The Rangers defeat the Marlins. I want to see, because I know that there's actually some interesting... No, okay. Yeah, so I must have cursed them because they can't win back-to-back. Now, there's a chance I have missed a few guys. I'm going to double check. I'm going to go through and look. Tyler O'Neill retires. He was one of our first signings. He was the Canadian off-season pickup that we needed to do in our first part of the retool, and he really didn't perform with us, which is interesting when you look at his stats. We came here, didn't hit very well with us the entire time we had him, and then the instant we traded him away, boom, dude could hit again, and could hit power again too. Just could not hit in Toronto, I guess. He ends as a 26 WAR player. Gets 3 Gold Gloves and a Silver Slugger, but not with us. Tyler O'Neill retires at the age of 39. It is 2034, by the way, so I'm going to check. There are some guys who may have retired that I think are important, but nobody who I have not been able to see them. Cy Young Award winner Mike Soroka retires. The Canadian. He retires. We brought him in specifically because he was Canadian. He wins the Cy Young out of nowhere, which, by the way, now the Blue Jays have dominated this Cy Young Award. If you consider who they had at their system at the time, they would now have like 4, I think, Cy Young winners at the same time, with Soroka, Painter, Meyer. I guess they didn't have Painter and Meyer at the same time. But then they've got young guys in the system who are up in that race. But yeah, Soroka retires. He goes to Seattle for 2 seasons after, and then Kansas City, where he plays a long relief role. He's not necessarily great, 17 WAR player, but very up and down career for Mike Soroka. But hey, Cy Young and World Series champion. Now Eldred Zachary with a Cy Young Award, adding to the trophy pen. And Riley Green getting another. Oh my God, this team is insane. Riley Green, Noelvi Marte getting the runner-up for the MVP. Zachary gets this time, and Painter right there as well in third. Like, what the hell? I mean, this is also just Angels and Blue Jays. So this team is like, I don't think I've seen a sim where a team has performed like this, unless it's like the Dodgers. Kind of crazy right now. They win one every 3 years, okay? That's just how it goes. They win one every 3 years. They get 2035, or every other year. 2033, 2031, and 2028. That's 4 World Series under the belt. Manuel Navarro wins our World Series MVP. Postseason goes to Riley Green. So Vladdy and Bo now have 4 World Series rings under their belt. And they're not retiring, hopefully. Hopefully not. They might be able to get some more. The question is, can we get them a back-to-back? Nate Pearson retires at the age of 40. He played all 11 seasons with us until 2031, which gave him 2 World Series in that time. He was a long reliever who was kind of mediocre. I've seen him do a lot better in other sims, but he did decent in this one and lasted the whole time and was serviceable that whole time. He obviously got worse and worse as it went, and was the reason why he was out of the league when he was. And something about Toronto, I guess, for us, that some guys really perform well and other guys didn't this time. So Pearson seemed to be one who did not perform as well as normal. Yoshi Yamamoto retires. He played for us for several seasons. He won the One World Series before with 2026, where he won and beat us as their ace of their rotation. And then he also won in 2028 with us, or 27 with us. And then he won in 2031 and 2033. So he gets 4 World Series for his career, which is fantastic for a guy who just kind of came over and pitched very well, had almost 2,000 innings, 1,600 strikeouts, and his total WAR was 26 by the end of his career, which isn't anything crazy, but pretty good career for Yoshi Yamamoto to come over and do as well as he did and win 4 World Series in that time. We're gonna do the quick search before everybody ends up disappearing. I already noticed Dalton Varsho retired, and I didn't catch it, so I apologize. We don't get to see how Varsho ended up doing for his career, but we're going to take a look at some of the other guys who are retiring and all of that, and that is going to be one is Bo Naylor. Both the Naylors are retiring at the same time. They played consistently. This is Bo, the catcher, and he was a serviceable catcher. 1,000 hits for his career, 150 home runs for his career, decent power, 260 as a WAR. He had 31 WAR, which is pretty good as a catcher. And he ended up winning in 2035, 2033, 2031, and 2027. Right? That's the year we won? I'm so lost. I think 2027. Yes. Yeah. So he won all 4 of those. So he gets 4 World Series under his belt. And yeah, fantastic career for Bo Naylor. Who will retire at the age of 37, and we'll just go straight to his brother, who did not play as long, only played till 2033, so he doesn't get 4, he gets 3 World Series under his belt. Over 2,000 hits, over 300 home runs for Josh Naylor, who also gets an MVP in 2029, and the playoff MVP in 2026, the year that we lost in the World Series, was a key component. He and his brother, both Canadians, brought in 3 World Series to the Canadian team. He probably could have played a little bit longer if he wasn't still on Toronto, honestly. If he played somewhere else, he probably would have got a little bit more stats, but I don't think it was going to make much of a difference. WAR-wise, he ended with 28 WAR. He was a mediocre defensive first baseman, so nothing that you're really going to see special from Josh Naylor. Same thing goes, we're going to get Alejandro Kirk out of the way. He is going to retire at the age of 38. 988 hits. He was a platoon catcher for his entire career, so nothing real special for him, but he was a part of all 4 World Series teams in Toronto, and was very good in that. Actually almost had more WAR than Bo in that amount of time because he was just a better defensive catcher in his time here in Toronto. And he was a very good little man. And Alejandro Kirk, he will retire at the age of 38. We're also going to catch Casey Mize before he retires at the age of 39. He pitched for 1,700 innings, had almost 1,700 strikeouts in his career, pitching in 339 games over that time. He was part of 2 of the World Series teams in Toronto, in the 2028 team, as well as in the 2027 and the 2031 team. He was with both of those, and was kind of decent in those times. Nothing really special. He was just kind of like a get us over the hump type player, and I think he did that. And then he went to Houston, where he pitched even better after leaving Toronto, because a lot of the guys did. So Casey Mize retires at age 39. Julian might have a little bit more in the tank, but I'm afraid I'm going to miss him if I don't get him. So we traded for him in 2024. He's a Canadian guy, and man, did he walk a lot, which is great. He was fantastic in that time, won the one World Series with us in 2027, and played great. 1,900 career hits. He walked a ton, just an on-base machine with an average on base of 362 for his career. He played Milwaukee the rest of the time after leaving us, continuing to get those walks and hits for the rest of his career. And he ended up as a 53 WAR player. Edouard Julien ended up being what would probably be a top, I think that's around top 200 player all time. And that's another MVP for Vlad Guerrero in 2038. 42 home runs. Vladdy, Cy Young, Fuentes in second. I mean, this team is still performing. They're getting really old, so I don't necessarily know how much longer they have. But if Vladdy's going to do this, then they might have a shot to continue to win more. Come on, get your fifth, Vladdy. We're just going to actually sim this right here. It's 5. Big hit 5. Noelvi Marte and Noelvi Marte. So 5 World Series for Vladdy and Bo, who are still both here. Do you think they'll retire? They're both old. It's 2038. Or do you think they'll run it back one more time? I hope they run it back one more time. Ireland wins the Cy Young, just adding to the stockpile of Cy Young awards made by Toronto Blue Jays. This one's one we actually drafted, with Sato being right below him. Yeah. They're in the playoffs again. Do you think they'll do it? I took over control a little bit because I know that they needed to make sure that those two would actually play. They're too low of overall. And they're back to the World Series. And they lost again. They can't win back-to-back. So, no back-to-backs ever. No back-to-backs allowed. Maybe they'll ride off into the sunset with their, 8 World Series appearances. Oh, it was a Game 7, too. No way. Blown in the 9th. Their opportunity to win it was blown in the 9th. That's rough. Sorry, boys. I do think it's important to note that most of the guys that we had were relievers that we drafted never really got to play, despite being decent players. We brought up Baladeras, and we played him, and he looked good when we brought him up. And even he came up in 2031 and 2032, and still looked good. They just never got another opportunity because of his overall rating, which kind of sucks. He ended up being a negative WAR, so maybe he wasn't that good, but it just, he had good stats, I guess. And they win again. That's 6 World Series now for Vladdy, Bo, Noelvi Marte. Insane. Let's see, who's the award? Ricky Lopez, and yeah, I don't know who these people are. Our closer, David Oka, retires. He was drafted in the 2026 draft. Nothing real special from him. He played 10 seasons. He left, went from Toronto, went to San Diego, came back in 2041, was on the minors. So he technically gets credit for 4 World Series for David Oka, though he was not on the team on that last season. So ended up being a 3 WAR. He's a reliever, nothing real special there. And Bo Bichette retires. The shortstop for our entire rebuild ends up with 3,359 hits, 370 career home runs, 6 World Series championships, a 289 average, and a 75.5 WAR. He was here for his entire career. Had 8 All-Stars, 1 Silver Slugger, 1 playoff MVP. Was never the big piece. You could see he had a couple seasons where he got over 200, and he started falling off here before he retires as a 44-year-old shortstop. Bo Bichette rides off into the sunset with 6 rings. Come on, MLB The Show. You're telling me that's not a Hall of Famer? Over 3,000 hits, over 300 home runs, 6 World Series, not a Hall of Famer? Okay, I'm pretty sure he's a Hall of Famer. Okay. We're also going to call for Riley Green. If Vladdy didn't make, or if Bo didn't make the Hall of Fame, I doubt Riley Green will. He was here and won the 2027, the 2031, the 2033, the 2035, the 2037, but he was gone by the time 2041 happened. So he gets five rings for Riley Green. 2,700 hits for his career, 440 home runs, 297 average. As a WAR, he had 91 WAR. So, you know, maybe he is a Hall of Famer, and he will retire, and we'll put that award up there. Well, okay, 6 Hank Aaron awards might say that maybe he should. He get 2 playoff MVPs and a World Series MVP. Yeah, Riley Green, probably a Hall of Famer as well. So we're talking about a really stacked 2027. That team has so many Hall of Famers. The other 6-time World Series winner with the Blue Jays, Noelvi Marte, also is going to retire. Not technically yet. We'll have to give him a chance to actually do it. He was on the roster this past year. He just went into free agency. He's not going to get signed. So that I'm counting this 6. I did check to make sure who was all still on that roster. Marte was, Bichette was, Vladdy was, Green was not. 2,100 hits for him, 300 home runs, and a WAR of 78.6 for Noelvi Marte, with 6 rings. Awards, World Series MVP in 2038, batting title in 2038. Gold Gloves, he had 6 of those. He had 5. Okay, so 2038, he was really, really good. So this was near the end of his career, and it was honestly like his best season was 2038. So Noelvi Marte, probably another guy who should be a Hall of Famer. And then there's Vladdy. 3,400 hits, 669 home runs for him, 289 average. He has 3 MVPs under his belt in 2031, 2032, and 2038. 2 Hank Aaron's, 12 All-Stars, 4 home run championships, a batting title, and he will end up with 75 WAR because he wasn't a very good defensive player, but 6 rings for Vladdy as well. I think we'll check to make sure, but I'm pretty sure he will get that Hall of Fame thing for MLB The Show, but definitely deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Our first round pick in the 2024 draft, Manuel Navarro. He's still on the roster, still in AA, but he's going to be done here. He gets 5. He wasn't on the first team. He was on... okay, we're not going to count that. He was technically on the team, but he was on AA. Whether or not you count that, I guess that's a different question. Like, okay, we'll say he gets 4 World Series for Manuel Navarro, who was a second baseman, had 1,400 hits, good amount of stolen bases. He had 53 in that 2032 season. I saw that pop up, so I didn't realize he was as much of a speed threat as he was, but not really a power guy. 261 average, gets on base, stole bases, and for a WAR 32, nothing real special from him, but 4 rings is 4 rings, and a World Series MVP in 2035 will definitely help. Another guy in that 2024 draft, Ramon Perez, one of the relievers that we drafted, didn't show up until 2030, missed 2031, so it doesn't get that ring, but was around for the rest of the seasons, got there 2033, 35, and 37, right? It was 37 or it was 38. I'm going to blank every time. It was 37 because 38 was the crazy year that they didn't win. And then 41. He wasn't there for 41, so he gets 3 of them. And ends up with almost 200 saves in his career. Pretty good reliever to have drafted in the 4th round of that first draft. Ends with 11 WAR, but pretty good reliever. Second round pick in that draft, Thomas Marquez, also will retire. Was really nothing special. No worries. We're not really going to look too deep into him, but was a reliever. Played 282 games, most of them for St. Louis for his career before retiring or going to retire here at age 35. I think Ken Norris is about done here at age 34. He played 4 seasons with us in Toronto, being part of 2 of the World Series runs before going to Miami for 4 seasons. Was really nothing special. 3.99 ERA. He was a 9 WAR player. Consistent, but nothing real special to be a second round pick in the 2025 draft. Freeland with another Cy Young at 2042. So, still winning Cy Youngs. I don't think I need to say it. They lost in the World Series again. It just, every year they make it, they lose the next year. It's been every time. They have made it, I think this would be, I think this is like time 11. I mean, you're counting more than I am at this point, or at least editor me is counting as I'm watching it back. That's a lot of World Series appearances. Closing pitcher Sawyer Bastar retires. We drafted him in the first round of 2026. And he played most of his career for Miami. 190 saves. Looks like he was somewhere, not necessarily always the closer, middle reliever, jumped a little bit between those. And then went to Houston for 4 years, retired after 2040. So he gets no World Series, I don't believe. 3 All-Stars, was a decent reliever over that time with a 4.2 WAR. I'm putting all the WAR because I want to actually compare what those closers do. Technically, I think Romano is still the best of all of them that I've counted so far. I believe, but I'm not keeping track in my head. Do just want to shout Andrew Painter is going to retire here. At some point soon. He did win 3 Cy Youngs, meaning he is one of the few to have won multiple. Andrew Painter has 3 Cy Youngs. I want to put this stat because I want to put him and be able to compare Freeland to him once they're done. So Painter ends up playing 432 games. He has 2,500, almost 2,600 strikeouts and 41 WAR for his career for his 3 Cy Youngs. And we'll be able to compare our other Cy Young winners once they also retire. So while I'm doing that, Skeens also has 2 of them. So we're going to look at Skeens too, who played for Pittsburgh, Chicago, and the Angels. Played 542 games, had 3,300 strikeouts, and ended with 59 WAR. So I think Skeens is technically better than Painter, or at least for a longer period of time. Maybe Painter was better in those specific seasons, but another multiple-time Cy Young winner, Paul Skeens. I think it's quite obvious Horace Yamazaki is done. I don't think he's going to play again. He's still B potential, technically should be able to play, but I don't think he's going to get another shot. He was decent, came up for Colorado for 5 seasons, pitched for a little while, 3.70 ERA in that time, 8 WAR. So he was actually pretty productive. Should have gotten a little bit more shots. I know Colorado's pitching staff got absolutely stacked in the 2030s, though. Yay, they give it to Vladdy. I mean, no, who wouldn't? We're going to call it for Sammy Cortez, who I think was the third baseman in 2025. He went to Philly, played for Philly for a while, 8 seasons for him, 500 hits, 50 home runs, nothing real crazy. I mean, he was a depth third baseman who got a little bit of a shot, ended up with 7 WAR for his career, so nothing crazy. I'm also going to call it for the third baseman in the same draft, in the 2026 draft in the second round, Lauren Nieve. He might still play like 1 more season, but I don't think it's going to make much of a difference. He's going to be one of those like mid-tier, low-tier third basemen that play a little bit. 1,300 hits, 180 home runs. Maybe he'll get to 200. I don't think that you care if he does. Had a good season at the end though. 267, and you're going to end up with 33 WAR as a player. Pretty good. I think he might play 1 more season, but I'm not going to go hunting him down. I do want to show this guy because I find it really interesting. Ryan Leavitt did not play till 2040, yet he won the playoff MVP in 2037, meaning he was high enough overall to play, but they wouldn't play him. So when Detroit made it to the World Series in 2037, which means we made it in 2038. You know, I've been missing up those years. When Detroit made it in 2037, he was there. Don't worry, they put Riley Green in too. So Riley Green officially makes it. Vladdy officially makes it. Mlbtheshow and Bo don't officially make it. Four Hall of Famers. We'll see. I mean, you could judge if. I don't think either the Nailers deserve it. Barrios was a Cy Young. I don't think you'd give it to him. Kirk, maybe. There's a lot of guys that have a potential to make it, but I think those four Hall of Famers is still a fantastic roster. Eldridge Zachary gonna call it a career here. He played very long, 11 seasons. He got 1, 2, 3. Well, no matter what, if it's 38 or 37, he got it. So that's 3 World Series for Eldridge Zachary in that time period, where he had 1,900 strikeouts, 2,100 innings in 396 games, wins the Cy Young in 2035, one of just so many Blue Jays to win Cy Young awards, and 32 WAR for him by the end of his career. Was our first pick in 2024, and I think put together a pretty good career. Interesting one. In the 2026 draft, round 6, we had Joel Ponce, who bounced around for a long time, won a World Series with Detroit, but played for 7 seasons over 11 seasons. Pitched mostly for Detroit in that time, somewhere as a long reliever or 5th starter in that entire time. Wins a Gold Glove at one point, but wasn't really anything special as a 5th starter for WAR. But hey, to pitch that long as a 5th starter and as a 6th-round pick, not bad for Joel Ponce. 5-time World Series champion Felipe Colon is also probably going to retire here. 419 games for him, 2,200 innings, over 2,000 strikeouts. He's going to end his career with 36 WAR. No Cy Youngs for Felipe Colon, but he was part of every World Series except for the first one. Yeah, it's going to end up being a pretty good debate on who is the second best pitcher that we drafted, knowing that it's likely Freeland is the best. But Felipe Colon was the second round pick, or the second round pick in that first draft, and had a pretty good career. Remember in 2025 when I ran out of time and accidentally let the CPU draft a guy? Well, that was Steve Cairo. And he pitched for 10 seasons. So I didn't sign him, meaning that the next year Oakland was allowed to draft him, and Oakland drafted him. He pitched for 10 seasons for Oakland. He even pitched for 3 seasons for Toronto, winning a World Series in that time while he was there. 1,600 strikeouts, 1,800 innings pitched, 28 WAR. This was a guy that we just didn't sign, but he was good. He was a good pitcher. 1 All-Star. We're going to call it a career for David Sasaki, who was our 4th round pick in 2027. 900 hits for Sasaki, 97 home runs, just an average contact hitter for his career in Arizona. He ended up having 24 WAR, so he must have been a pretty good defensive player too at that, to get 24 WAR in 7 seasons and basically platooned for those 7 seasons. So pretty good career for Sasaki if you consider see potential, was never going to play for us simply because of how stacked our outfield was. He made some of himself. Just knowing the overall and the Mets, I think I'm going to call it for Sato. I know he still has a chance of a little bit more. I don't think he's going to get another shot, just being 37 and being a free agent. He's just not going to get signed. So Sato will call it quits here in 2045. He was a 2-time World Series champion. He was the first pick in the 2027 draft, so he was technically part of the organization during our first World Series run. 387 games, 1,900 innings, almost 1,600 strikeouts for Sato, and ends with 25 WAR. 1 Gold Glove. Nothing crazy for him for a career. 4 FIP. But one of the guys that you would consider, is he the second best pitcher? Is he the second best pitcher? Elvin Freeland from Germany. We're going to have him call it quits too here. He's technically still on the Toronto Blue Jays roster. He has played 346 games in his career, over 2,000 innings, almost 1,600 strikeouts, so very close to what we got from Sato. And for WAR, he had 29. Thought you'd see a little bit more from him, but a two-time Cy Young winner, so that is three two-time Cy Young winners that we care about. I saw some other guys that won it twice afterwards, but we don't necessarily care about how they did. So we're going to compare him to Painter and Skeens. I think he's the worst of the three, but he also played the least games. So the question is then, can we compare it via less game? Take the games out of the equation, see like wars per game and wars per start, or WAR per start, and just see how effective of a pitcher he ended up actually being. That's likely it for Jeff Castillo, the catcher from the second round of the 2027 draft. He went to Seattle right away, played half his career in Seattle, half his career in Kansas City. I believe he got himself all the way up to a 96 overall at one point. 1,300 hits, 200 home runs, 252 average. And that left him with a 43 WAR, which is very, very good for a catcher like Jeff Castillo. There's one more catcher left, and then we get to be finalized with our Toronto Blue Jays rebuild. And he's done. Ray Simone, our last catcher, our last player to take a look at, retires at the age of 38. He won 1, 2, I think he won 3 and 4 right here. 4 World Series for Ray Simone as a catcher, half of them with Toronto, half of them with Boston. And in that time, he ended up getting 1,200 hits, 185 home runs, hit 274 average for his career with a 46 WAR, looking like the best catcher of all of them, being the 6th round pick in 2027. And that'll be all. So interestingly enough, I thought this one would be a little bit quicker. We had older players that would be a little bit faster to go through, but I wasn't expecting the Blue Jays to be as good as they were, and sims take a little bit longer that way. So this video is a little bit longer than I would have expected it to be, but I hope that you enjoy kind of following that story of the Blue Jays and seeing my honest reaction as time goes on. This is another one that has gone till like 5 in the morning of these career sim extended periods. So this is why I'm asking for your advice. Do you like these? Are you enjoying this? Do you want to see more of these extendeds? Do you like this type of thing? Because I obviously I skipped the Rockies one and I went straight to the Blue Jays. I didn't think the Rockies I had some data corruption issues, and then I didn't think it was interesting that much because after they got there, they all just regressed instantly, and none of my draft picks were really that good either. So we just skipped right to the Blue Jays, and I hope that you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed this. We will come back with something new next time, see what we bring to the table, and yeah, I want to thank you guys for watching again. I want to thank you for all the support. To think that earlier this month I had basically 0 views on this channel, and now I'm at this point, I think today, like over 300 subscribers and almost over 20k views on my channel. I personally can't believe that. I also want to say I'm going to leave a link below for everybody who has been watching. I'm going to leave a link to the Discord community. It's pretty dead, to be honest. But then you can give me some more personal feedback and maybe catch notifications when I go live streaming, or notifications for videos when I get dropped. A little behind the scenes too. All right. Like I said, it's like 5 in the morning again. So adios.